I am so excited. We have with us today Shawn Talbott, PhD, BCHN, CDSP. He's got all kinds of wonderful initials that we love. Shawn is a member of the NANP Board of Directors. And so we've worked together a little bit, but I really want to understand how you ended up where you are today in being a nutritional scientist and a formulator. I'm sure you have a very interesting sort of education and career arc. And like how did you end up where you are today? Take us through it.
Well, we'll have to go back a million years to when I first started my schooling. So I consider myself now to be a nutritionist a nutritionist that studies the impact of what we eat on how we feel and how we perform. So much so that people sometimes refer to me these days as a psychonutritionist or a nutritional psychologist, which like that's a whole field now that didn't exist when I went to school. The impact of your food and your mood, so people study that now, and that's a whole discipline that has only really developed in the last few years. So if you go back to sort of the beginning, I started out studying sports medicine, thinking that I was going to become a sports medicine doc. And along the way I got interested in exercise science, and then that took me to elite athletes and working with the Olympic training centers and International Olympic Committee and stuff like that. But what I realized along the way is that we were trying to get these athletes to be in the best shape of their lives to win the gold medal or qualify for the world championships or something like that. And I realized that you can't out exercise a bad diet. And so that got me interested in nutrition, and that took me down the road of not just nutrition, but so my PhD is in nutritional biochemistry. So a lot of what I study and a lot of what I educate about and write about and speak about is the biochemical impact of food. And what you find there is that biochemistry is a very integrated, holistic, you could say, kind of a situation, right? Nobody, when we talk about nutrition, we don't really talk about, one nutrient or one food. It's a meal, right? Nobody goes out and eats vitamin C, right? They eat an orange. And that has not just vitamin C, it's got flavonoids and fibers and all kinds of different things, right? So that idea of holistic nutrition to improve what I refer to as holistic performance, how you feel, how you show up, how you think, what your stress levels are, what your sleep quality is, it all comes back to nutrition. And that's why I think an organization like NANP is so important.
Love that. So it wasn't just a straight line.
Not at all a straight line. It was "Rrt, rrt, rrt, rrt," all these different ways, but
Things that, right?
related, related.
I think that that is so interesting for our industry. A lot of us have actually come from a different career,
Right.
myself included. I did something entirely different and then found my passion here. And then once you find it, then there is a lot of zigging and zagging trying to figure out, like, okay, I'm here, but I kind of like what's happening over there a little bit too. And what about over here? And then melding it all together into a really cohesive, beautiful career.
Mhm.
I think you're a great example of someone who really like found your calling. I can say by personal experience how grateful I am. Sean knows he has a product at Three Waves Wellness called Stress Chocolate. I'm a fan of chocolate, especially in the evening. I like to have just a tiny bit, and it's the perfect size, by the way. Your little bite is perfection. And I just can't even begin to tell you how much that has helped me and my husband through a very stressful time, personally, professionally. It's been a lifesaver, frankly, honestly, because I wasn't sleeping and neither was he,
Mhm.
and now we're sleeping, which is phenomenal. So I want to do a shout out. How did you get from, okay, I'm nutritional biochemistry to now I'm going to actually create my own supplements and formulations, like how did you get there?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I love about I like the science aspect of science, right? Learning things, finding out things. How does A work with B and result in Z, that kind of stuff. But if you can't harness that, if you can't apply that science, then I mean, really, who cares, right? If it's just going to be in a journal somewhere in a dusty library, do they still have dusty libraries, or is it just it gets lost on the internet? You know what I mean, though,
Right.
right? If you can't apply that so that the science can help somebody, that's what really gets me excited. And so stress chocolate is an example of that, where it's a really nice quality dark chocolate, but the thing that helps you de-stress and helps with your serotonin levels for daytime happiness and helps with your melatonin levels for nighttime sleep quality is this little herb called corngrass. And it's been studied for sleep quality, it's been studied for stress levels and things like that. So we infused some of that corngrass into the chocolate, and now when you eat it, your body uses that to make serotonin for happiness, make melatonin for sleep quality. So there's a cool interesting science aspect to it, but a lot of people don't even care about the science of it. They just go, well, when I eat this, I feel better and I sleep better, and when I sleep better, I feel better, so like that, like applying the science to real life is what really matters, I think.
Well, and it's such a great example of the diversity that can exist in, a situation where you're creating formulations. It doesn't have to be in a tincture. It doesn't have to be in a capsule. You can put
Right.
it into food. And being a food first industry, I think it's just brilliant. So I want to personally thank you for that.
Thanks. Like, let me
So,
say let me say one more thing too, Nicole, is that like, I like nobody learns product development in school. That's not something that there's not a I don't think there's a course in that. I guess you could study food science, in college or something like that. But the way I learned it was on the job training. So, I learned about a lot of different pieces, kind of like what you were saying before. That's one of the advantages of holistic nutrition. You can learn a little bit about this over here and this over here, and then once you have your expertise, so to speak, then you can go and learn specifically. So I got a job with a big food company right out of school, and I said to them, I go, I would love to work for you guys. I'd love to work for anybody at that point, right? And I said, but I don't know anything about products. Like, I've never done that before. They say, oh, don't worry about it. You have all these other skill sets from all the education that you've had. We'll teach you the product development part. And then, they taught me that. And, I've been able to do that for lots of companies, and including myself now.
You know, it's so important that we keep an open mind in that way. I think a lot of times we get a little set in our ways. I want just this job.
Hmm.
But if you're open to like what you just described is, okay, I'm going to work at a food company and I'm going to like just harvest all the information I possibly can. And then you use it later on, right? I think being open-minded to whatever is out there that can help further your career is so critical.
Hmm.
Um, and so you did a great talk at our conference this year. You were a closing keynote speaker. You talked about peptides, and I mean, I didn't know much. I'm not practicing nutrition anymore. I'm sitting behind a desk doing administrative stuff all day. So I found it absolutely fascinating. And if anybody wants to see it, you can go onto our website and you can actually get that lecture and hear what Shawn had to say. But I want to pull a little bit at you have the BCHN credential.
Hmm.
And so tell me why you decided to pursue that. Like, why?
Yeah, well, there isn't any other credential that proves to the world that you know what you're talking about when it comes to holistic nutrition, right? I think one of the problems with nutrition these days is the reductionist nature of it. That people want to talk about, not a meal or a pattern of eating. They want to talk about, a good food or a bad food, or they want to talk about a miraculous nutrient or a dangerous toxic component in your food, right? And that, like, that reductionism, I think, confuses people. It makes people, scared and wary about their nutrition. It makes people susceptible to, wacky trends that come along. And I think that like the idea of holistic nutrition and somebody who can like take the big picture and then educate other people and help other people to figure out exactly what to do with their overall nutrition pattern is so important because I'll say this, and this might sound a little pie in the sky, but there is no more intimate interaction that we have as humans with the natural world than nutrition. I mean, literally, when we consume a food, it becomes part of us, right? You've heard, well, you have heard it, but people who are watching, you are what you eat, right? We've heard that. Like, that's not fanciful. That's literal. It becomes part of us. And so we can become better by eating the right things. We can become worse by eating the wrong things. And that's what holistic nutrition is all about. And that's what the BCHN signifies.
And it's so important that we connect all those dots, right?
Right.
The holistic, we talk about this at the board level, we talk about this at the team level, is there's the food, that's a big part of it, right? But then there's all this other stuff that makes up the human being
That's right.
that holistic nutrition professionals are looking at, right? Like if you're stressed out while you're eating, how's that going to go,
That's right.
right? If you are not paying attention to what you're putting in your food and you're distracted all the time, or if you're having heartache or you're having other things going on, maybe you don't have a sense of community, maybe you're lacking some feeling of spiritual connection. All of those things matter, and all of those things have to be taken into consideration. I'm very proud of our BCHN,
Right.
and it my heart to no end when we have people of your caliber who carry our credential. I have a great deal of respect for you and for what you do. And the fact that you are carrying our credentials makes me oh so very happy. So let's just, you're part of the board of directors for NANP. You're giving of your time and your energy and your expertise. Is there anything that you would say to someone who's been thinking about joining the organization, but they're kind of on the fence? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, well, I think it dovetails with exactly what you just said, Nicole. It's not just about nutrition education. You can get nutrition education lots of places. I go to conferences and it's a nutrition science conference, but you know what? There's a soda company set up in the corner over there, and there's a cookie company set up in the corner over there, and there's not that those aren't part of your holistic nutrition, right? I mean, they can be, but that's a little bit of a disconnect, I think, sometimes. What I love about NANP, and especially the con for like HealCon, is the community of people, right? It's like-minded people. It's people who are holistic in the way they think about nutrition, but also in the way they think about the planet and the environment and connecting with other people and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that like that is something that I want to try to build more of in the world. Like if there's something we need more of, it's more of the right kinds of connections. And that's what NANP is all about.
I couldn't agree with you more. I was having a conversation just yesterday afternoon with a gentleman who was describing it being at a nutrition conference, and he said they were there. They had all kinds of interesting vendors, and they charged thousands and thousands of dollars to give my product away to people. And I said, "Was Coca-Cola there?"
Yeah,
He
yeah,
said,
exactly.
"KFC was there."
Oh no.
I said, "You won't find any of that at NANP." I mean, we're tiny but mighty because we stick to our standards and we take them very, very seriously. And so you won't find any of that kind of thing at our conference. Shawn, I am so grateful for your time and your expertise and your willingness to share your story with us. I think it's really important for people to be able to know that just because you start in one place doesn't mean that's where you're going to end up.
Right.
And part of the fun of being in an industry like this, because let's face it, nobody just happens to end up in holistic nutrition.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
Yeah, you don't just fall into it, right? Really.
into this, right? And you have to be pretty deliberate, is that the journey is can be so gratifying and wonderful, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. Exactly, exactly. I say to people all the time, food is your medicine. And what you'll find is that some people gravitate into our space because they're trying to solve a problem. Like they have a problem, they have a family member who has a problem, and holistic nutrition ends up being the solution to that problem. But what you find is that it's also the solution to the things that I think a lot of people don't feel like is a problem anymore. Like we've become accustomed to being stressed out and sleep
Hmm.
deprived and kind of tired and having brain fog and feeling kind of blah all the time. And, in my world, I try to like wave a red flag and say, no, no, those aren't normal things, right? They're typical things because of the world we live in now. But nutrition can really be a solution to getting you to have that best level of mental and physical performance for yourself. So, and that's what I mean by food is medicine.
I totally agree. There's nothing quite so gratifying than someone coming to a nutrition visit and saying, "I feel like I just woke up."
Right,
Like I've had people say that to me, and it's so touching and so impactful.
right.
And so being a part of that process is wonderful.
Exactly.
Thank you, Shawn. It was great to talk to you. I greatly appreciate it. If you're stressed out, buy some stress chocolate. Help yourself out. And thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Nicole. Bye bye.
Bye.